Hello, hello. We are back. We are back again for the third time with the illustrious Professor Johannes Menke. And he is, we had such a great time in the episode. I mean, the last two episodes were fantastic. And now, Professor Menke, you've come out with a new book on Couperin, right? And I think, let me just show the title of the book here. Um, and it is François Couperin. Well, Professor Mencken, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, hello, and thank you for the invitation. It's nice to be here again.
Wonderful. So, first of all, I might have to ask you, why did you choose the subject of Couperin?
Yeah, this is a question many people do, because one could think, why should a music theorist who published before two textbooks on counterpoint publish a biography on Couperin? Uh, and why should a German author publish a biography on a French composer? Well, I think there are many reasons for doing that. One reason is when I bought a harpsichord many years ago, I tried out many composers, many repertoires for harpsichord, and then I played more and more the French repertoires. I felt a little bit in love with the French repertoire, and then more and more François Couperin. So this is a composer where you are not super impressed if you hear the music the first time. But if you play it more and more and listen to it more and more, he becomes a kind of friend. This is what Christophe Rousset has written in his biography. That François Couperin is a friend for me. And so it has some privacy, this music, and a very special taste.
Yeah, can I ask you what particular pieces really like struck you? Do you have any particular ones you can mention?
Yeah. So look, of course, we cannot reduce François on this one aspect. So this was only the introduction. There are also other aspects. So if you just look in music history, you will notice very soon that in history of French music, he is an absolute outstanding composer. He has had a very important role at the court of Versailles, first under Louis XIV and then the Regent and Louis XV. Yes, he was one of the first composers in France composing modern chamber music, composing trio sonatas. And he is clearly the most prominent harpsichord composer for French harpsichord music, but maybe also if you look at the history of harpsichord music, so you have is one of the very big mountains of harpsichord music.
And he loved the harpsichord, right? I mean, he wrote a treatise on it, and he said, what did he say? This was like one of the most perfect instruments, right? The harpsichord.
He was quite honest. He also criticized the harpsichord. So he talked about the advantages and disadvantages of this instrument. So you can do some brilliant things, but of course you have the problem that you cannot do the dynamics so clearly. You cannot hold notes. But then he tried to establish some techniques to balance those issues.
Yeah. So one more thing before we dive into this, we have a lot of great things to cover. But I wanted to ask, with regard to Couperin and the harpsichord, so how does he strike you as a writer in his treatises and the way he writes? Because sometimes you get a sense, like, for instance, when I read music in the Galant style, I enjoy the way Robert Yerdigan writes. It's very warm, very witty. Or if you look at Don Drew, if you look at the Gasparini, what does Couperin as a writer and as an you're a music theorist, so how did it strike you, his manuals and his writings?
So François Couperin as an author, we can read him as an author of words, not of music, in the famous prefaces, and they are always a mixture of some private informations about his sicknesses and circumstances and why There was a delay of the publication, is the usual things, but also some informations on style, on new aspects of his pieces. The most famous treatise, of course, is the L'Art de Toucher, which was a model for all keyboard treatises later. Even the title was, we can have a look later, was quoted many often. And he also has written in manuscript a little thoroughbass treatise, which also is quite interesting, I think.
Great. So, okay. So, Professor Menke, where should we start first then? Should we maybe talk about his time? Like, for instance,
Mhm.
what was it like his when he was born in the 17th century? And he
Mhm.
passed away, I think, in 1733, right? So, kind of
Exactly.
early in the 18th century. So, can you speak on his time, basically, and the kind of world that he was in, the musical world?
Mhm. So of course we cannot separate the musical world from the entire world.
The real world.
The real world,
Yeah.
the real world. Well, for me, it was a key to understand his life or his contribution to composition better, recognizing the change of the world in which he was born towards the world where he died. So when he was born in the world of Louis XIV, the so-called Ancien Régime, where we have what we later call the classical French art. And in France, in art history, literature, also music, the classicism is the 17th century with Molière and Racine and Corneille and Lully and so on. And so this was the world where he was born. And then he got a job. He was an organ player at the royal court. He was a harpsichord teacher at the royal court and so on. And then the king died. Here we have Jean-Baptiste Lully. Yeah.
Quite a bit older, right? Than
Quite a bit older, very much older. Lully, the kind of pope of French music in the middle of the 17th century at the court of Louis XIV. And then when the king died in 1715, the court life changed quite dramatically. The court moved from Versailles to Paris. There was the regent who had completely different ideas concerning politics, concerning style, concerning morality, and also concerning music. And then after some years, we have the reign of Louis XV, the young new king, where we can say, and a new time starts, a time of Rococo in art, of the new Enlightenment. There was an author in the 20th century. His name is Paul Assart. Here we can see his book. Yeah. So in the German translation, it's Die Krise des europäischen Geistes, the crisis of the European spirit. And he describes exactly the crisis from 1680 to 1715. So this is the central part of Couperin's life. And what his main thesis is that not only in France, the world has completely changed. All the things which were estimated as good in the time of Louis XIV has changed, almost in the opposite. Yeah, and when we have, so for example, the authorities, God and the church and so on, and then comes the Enlightenment criticizing all those authorities. Just one example.
Right. It's interesting. That's a time of great social upheaval and what about his life? I mean, didn't his mother died when he was like 20 or 21, pretty young,
Yeah,
and
especially his father died quite early. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But otherwise, his life, I read that it was relatively pretty successful. I mean, other than the illnesses, he had a pretty good career, right? I mean, if comparing it to everyone else, a lot of people, musicians have hard lives, but he had a pretty good career.
Absolutely. Yeah. He was a quite successful man. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a family. He had very early a job as an organ player in Saint-Gervais. where his family has this job since generations, and also after it was in the hand of the family Couperin. You can still visit the house of the Couperins.
Really?
Yes, yeah, you can.
Wow. Could you say something about Louis Couperin, who is older, right? And how significant was he on François and also in French harpsichord music in general?
Now, he played an important role. But there is a certain problem with Louis Couperin. Because the pieces we are contributing to Louis Couperin, we cannot be absolutely sure that they are really composed by Louis Couperin.
Okay.
It was Glenn Wilson who had the thesis that many of them are, following his opinion, are composed by Charles Couperin, the father of François Couperin.
Okay.
Yeah, he has given some good reasons for this argument.
Yeah.
So I think both his uncle Louis and the father very important. Of course, Louis Couperin died before François Couperin was born, but the pieces composed by him were surely in the family and they were played there.
Yeah. So,
Glenn Wilson, I also believe that some pieces where we say today composed by Louis Couperin were composed by Charles Couperin, the father, and then they come closer to François Couperin.
Why is he called the Great?
Why is he called the Great? Yeah, this one cannot say exactly when that started, but it started in the 18th century. There is one reason is to distinguish him from his uncle François. There were two François Couperins, and one is less important, and this one is very important, and the very important one, Le Grand. Another reason is, I think that he played really an important role in French music history. He composed quite early fantastic organ music. He composed his first French trio sonatas. He was so important for the French harpsichord music. So enough reasons to use this name Le Grand. And also there was during his lifetime, some people said he should have after his death an important place in the Parnasse. You know, the Parnasse is the, let's say, the heaven for the artists.
So I have two people. So Corelli and Bach. So did Bach actually write letters to Couperin, or is that not true? Is that what do you say about it?
This is a nice tale, but I've never seen such a letter.
I mean, did Bach even speak French? I mean, was he?
A little bit, maybe. I actually understood French. He used sometimes French in his titles.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
and he was deeply influenced by French style.
Indeed.
This is true.
Influenced by Couperin?
Also by Couperin. So we know he has.
And to what extent? To what do we see his influence on Bach?
So the most clear influence is that he copied two pieces by Couperin. So one is Le Bergerie from one of the order in B flat major, and the other one appears as an organ piece. And here we have an interesting bridge by Pisendel, because we know that Pisendel did a copy of a trio sonata by Couperin. And this obviously came in the hands of Johann Sebastian Bach, and then he made an organ piece with it. We have we can find in one of the presentations, we can find examples of that. Maybe we could have a look.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so
if I can give you the page, it is in the. If you scroll down, it is, and the bigger one, page 31.
Okay.
Maybe we start in 30.
Is it this one?
Yeah, maybe we start one page before.
Is it this one?
Yeah, this is a nice overview of the trio sonatas by Couperin. You find on the left the early versions he composed when he was in his 20s. And then you see on the right, Les Nations, the publication much more later in 1726. And the Trio Sonata we are talking about is L'Impérial from the 1726 edition. And this was composed before with another title, with La Convalescente in D minor. And here, now we can go down. We have a copy by Pisendel. This is this copy, La Convalescente, with the title and the composer. And if you go to the next page, we can find this slow movement, rondeau, in F major, and below we see the Bach organ piece. No, it was.
Oh yeah, I see. Right there.
Same page.
Yeah. Yes.
And the other piece, as I said before, was Le Bergerie. And so, obviously, so we can be sure that Bach knew those two pieces, so the whole volume, of course, where the Bergeries is taken from, and also this Trio Sonata. Maybe he knew more pieces, but we don't know exactly.
So, Professor Menke, can we speak about French compositional technique of that period? Okay, schemata and thoroughbass, and what was the system they were using back then? And could you speak about like the sort of thought music theory processes that Couperin would use?
Yeah, of course, it's difficult to summarize in a few sentences. We have done one episode in the episode before. We did 3 years ago. There were some informations on French style, also on composition technique, and I also have given some names of famous French theorists like Niver, who wrote a counterpoint treatise, and also a treatise on accompagnement, so basso continuo. In my book, you will find, here it is, an entire chapter on French music theory, because in my opinion, it's important to do that. Maybe to go back to your first question, why did I write a biography on Couperin? For me, it was also important to write such a biography as a music theorist. So with my perspective on composition technique and music theory and music education as well. Back to your question. So you were asking about the background of music education in France in general, but we can maybe discuss it taking François Couperin as an example.
Yeah.
So we know that he had education first by his father when he was very young. Then the father died, and the mother has found a new teacher, Jacques Tomelin. He was also an organ player, and some people have said that he was a kind of second père, a second father for François Couperin. It's interesting that we have exactly here we have the Wikipedia about Jacques Tomelin, and there are some little exercises probably composed by Jacques Tomelin, which were used for the purpose of music education. Maybe we could have a look.
Okay, I have the slide actually right here. So couple of cadences. So
yes, of cadences, short formulas. Probably they were used to teach to the students some typical progression, typical cadences they could use later for improvisation. For the offices in the church, because for the offices, of course, you were improvising all the time. The pieces we have in print maybe were also used, but they are more a kind of documentation of this practice. And if you go into these exercises, maybe I could play, even because I have here a little digital organ.
It was a big hit the last time. We have to do it again.
The audience will like the sound of the organ.
I'll like it. Let's go.
If you have a look on the second cadence, I try to play it. It's very small now at the moment. Maybe I switch my screen. I can see it bigger. So it's the cadence in D minor. It sounds like. What we get here is one of those schemata I've identified as typical French. So we can find the so-called harmonic progression, which happens in measure 2 when we go from the G minor chord to the E minor chord. So spoken in it's very dangerous here to use Roman numerals, isn't it? But just for identifying the chords, it's the second degree, it's the fourth degree minor chord and the second degree minor chord in D minor. This very typical progression. I play it once again. Yeah, mostly followed by a dominant chord. It's a very typical thing. Trommelin obviously taught to his students. Directly in the next bar, we can find the famous Quinte superflue chord. Yeah, almost every harpsichord organ player or specialist in French music loves that fantastic chord. You have a third degree. Now I'm using thoroughbass. The third degree in the bass, the F. You find an augmented fifth in the soprano, and it sounds really dissonant. And a major seventh. This is a very typical chord, and then you can resolve this to the sixth chord on the third degree. So here you can find two very special chords in one little cadence formula.
When you say chords, are they thinking contrapuntally and with counterpoint and intervals and thoroughbass figures in that regard? Are they thinking of chords in this way?
I think if you study the French thoroughbass treatises, you could take what you want, Niver or Dandrieux or what else. You can observe a certain interest in vertical structures, which they call l'accord. Yeah? L'accord de la Quinte superflue, l'accord. But it's a different approach on chords than we have today. So for them, also a dissonant sound is a chord. So they also say l'accord de la septième et de la neuvième, which is a spoken with modern words, a suspension of 7.
Yes, and we see this in Dandrieux, right? Because he will have this chord, and it's a vertical chord. Is that like the Germans also are sort of like this, right? In some respects.
Carl Philipp, it's quite similar.
Yeah. And that tradition, where does that tradition come from? That vertical thinking, is it just national, or do they?
I think it's a consequence of basso continuo, of thoroughbass, because what thoroughbass always does this vertical analysis of sounds, and then it's it's very clear. What should you say? You could say it's a sound with 4 or 5, or you can say it's a chord with 4 or 5. The issue with chords comes if you come to Rameau. So if you say want a chord for me has to have the structure of thirds, then you have to be something different. So if you reduce the sounds to what you say are chords, then you have this.
So if a modern student was looking at these chords, right, how would you suggest they analyze this?
Today. So I would recommend to analyze them with an historical perspective. So to take them as chords in the historical sense. And so if you come from the treatises, this sound of the Quinte superflue in bar 3, our example, has an own quality. If you only say it's a suspension, and the chord comes later,
Mm.
you lose a very specific quality.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. Come on, play more. This is great.
Yeah,
There's a lot of good stuff here.
yeah. Maybe
Which one do you want to? Which one do you want to do?
we can scroll a little bit down. There is one red comment I did.
Is it lower? Lower?
It should be on the next page. Yeah, no, it's not red. It's
The
blue.
blue one. Okay.
Yeah, the blue one. Here it's in German. I just have a short remark that this is a similar dissonance treatment like in a prelude by François Couperin. So to have a kind of evidence that this was really, maybe really used in the lessons. We don't know, of course. We'll never have a check. So I will play this example. It's in A major. It's A minor, sorry. And here we can observe quite strange combinations, either pedal notes in the tenor or very long transitus in both outer voices, producing very dissonant sounds. First one with the ninth, second one with the seventh in the first two bars. So quite interesting.
So this is very, very interesting and very rich. This is the 17th century, right? And I think I remember. I think Professor Yerdigan was saying that the 17th century was a very exciting, almost like harmonic time. A very, in some ways, like the Wild West. They were doing a lot of interesting things. They were doing very daring things in the 17th century.
Especially in the first half or the first decades of the 17th century. Yeah, this is true.
Wonderful. So I have a question about tonality here. Now, that's a term that Fétis uses, of course, but keys, and if you look at Dondrieu, they do use terms like the dominant, the subdominant. They use these terms. So how do French people think of keys and key areas and tonalities? Is there, I mean, France is Catholic, so do they have some hexachordal thinking as well, or is that really restricted to Italy?
Maybe we should talk better about modes and less about, of course, hexachordal thinking. We have some rests of that. Of course, it's a transition of modes towards tonality. We can observe, I think we have spoken about that in the last episode, taking Niver as an example. So if you have a look in the first treatise by Niver about, on counterpoint, you can find the Baroque 8 modes based on the older 8 modes, which were very useful for church music. If you go to the treatise on accompagnement, on thoroughbass, you will only find 3. So major, minor, and Phrygian.
And Phrygian, okay.
Yeah, Phrygian always is the rest. The only one you cannot really integrate into the world of minor and major. And if you go on, there comes the day of the rule of the octave, which was invented kind of in France. The first famous publication is François Campion in 1716. And there we only have major and minor. But there still are some rests of the old thinking, because the first minor mode is not A, it's D. Like the old Dorian.
Does Couperin, how does he think?
How does he think?
Yeah.
We will never know. But it always depends where you are. So when you are sitting at your organ in the church and you have to do an accompaniment for the chant, of course you will think in the modes, because this is music where you have to find a polyphony for it. And if you are composing modern gallant harpsichord music for the court, you will use, or you will think in a major and minor tonality. So mainly because he was, after having composed organ music and some vocal music, he was very focused on instrumental music. So in the second half of his life, François Couperin, of course, was thinking in minor and major. The other question is, did he think in 24 tonalities? Maybe, but he did not use all of them.
Right,
So,
because this is well before like the well-tempered clavier and that those sorts of equal well-tempered
mhm.
tunings. So do you have what's in his 4 books, what are the most remote keys that he uses?
And we can observe that he is really expanding the range of tonalities. So if we come, the first book is quite limited, and the last book from 1730, here we also can find E flat major and F sharp minor and those tonalities, but we will never find C sharp major, for example. Well, also when Bach wrote the wohltemperiertes Klavier, he did not use an equal temperament.
Yes.
It was well temperature, but not equal. And maybe the temperament François Couperin used was a little bit less equal. Therefore, he avoided those tonalities. Another reason surely was that he wanted that his pieces were played by the people, by his pupils.
Yeah.
And if you give to your princess, you're teaching a piece in C sharp major, maybe the princess will not really fond of it.
Yeah. Okay, so education of Couperin.
Mm-hmm.
We know how Bach taught. There's some examples of how he taught and some anecdotes. We know how the Naples conservatories taught with partimento. So Couperin, what did he do? I mean, what kind of, did he do exercises in like basse chiffre? Did he do accompaniment? Was it something like D'Andrieu? Like, how would a child in the 1660s, what's a solid music education look like?
Maybe you could have some examples. The most famous book is L'Art de Toucher. If you have a look in L'Art de Toucher, we find many informations about performance practice, technique, and so on. We also find some typical pieces, and those are typical compositions, which he used for his lessons, of course.
Okay.
Did you find the Allemande? I'm also searching.
What page is the Allemande? Is it just a little?
Just searching. Here it is. It's page 43. This is interesting because this is a sort of Allemande he never used in his harpsichord music. It's more, if you play it, it sounds more like a Handel piece. But maybe it was a good exercise for the fingers and for the independency of the fingers and for a certain kind of virtuosity.
Yeah.
And for an introduction of the French style, we have to go to the first prelude on page 58, which I will not play on my organ here because it will not sound really satisfying. Unfortunately, I don't have an harpsichord sound, so
yeah,
please,
it's okay.
Please listen to a good recording. Enough of them.
People can find that.
Exactly. And here you find this very precise notation. You find for every finger. How do you say this? Fingersatz in English?
Fingerings.
Fingerings. Yes, the precise fingerings. Thank you. You also find these very interesting harmonies, which those switched chords. Something very similar we have observed in the Tomelin cadence before. And so this is if you compare it with the famous Bach C major prelude, this is a kind of French brother.
Yeah, I look at the clef. I mean, that's this. Are all the pieces in different clefs in the right hand?
This is typical because here you have a lower range for the melody, and then they just used another clef.
Were they keyboard players expected to use multiple clefs back in the day?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
You also find something a different, especially in the earlier French harpsichord music, a different F clef in the left hand, which is in the middle. For modern players, it's sometimes horrible, but well, this is you can learn it. It's a question of practicing.
So you're saying that they would play these sorts of pieces as like training,
Yeah,
just a bunch of
it's a
pieces.
training similar to the Bach prelude or inventions. We also can have a look maybe in this thoroughbass treatise he has. So here we see François Couperin. It's a it's a modern edition I did for a presentation. Yeah, the famous rule of the octave used by Couperin in C major and then in D minor. And if you look in the source, you will find a transposition in all keys. And if we go one page back, here we find an example of Couperin's Règle pour l'accompagnement. And if we look the first example, this could be a kind of, I don't know, is it a parody of the rule of the octave or is it an augmentation? I'm not sure.
Sevens, yeah.
Because maybe this I could really play
7,
now.
6, yeah.
A very dissonant variation of the rule of the octaves. It sounds like that. Yeah, you can see the upper tetrachord it has a chromaticism in the bass. We have the l'accord de la quinte superflue in bar 3. Here you see this little A. You also will find a sixth chord of the augmented triad in bar 5 on the degree of the dominant. Yeah, and then a seventh chord on the 6th degree B flat. So really colorful and exciting version of the rule of the octave. So for me, it's the effect of you all know the rule of the octave. In the episode before, we said the rule of the octave is a kind of pizza margarita. So it's well tasting, but very, very simple. What we find here is a much more complex pizza.
This is interesting because he's a guy, right, Couperin. He said, here's that famous quote. Let's bring it out, right? The quote he says, which is, I love much better the things which touch me than those which surprise me. So, and taken however you take that, it's more like, I guess the gist is like, I like beautiful things rather than shocking dissonances. Or, I mean, I'm not sure. How would you take that quote from there? Very famous quote.
So those chords, they should not have a shocking effect. They are more spices. You will not do those chords all the time. On certain places with taste, you can place the chords.
Yep.
And in such an exercise, it's just an overview where you find them in a very narrow manner. But in reality, you will find such a concert of flute chord in one composition only once.
Yeah.
And not in every bar. So if you want, we also could play the descending version just to complete the picture. Well, let's listen to the descending.
Let's do it.
Yes, let's do it. I'm sure you have noticed some very dissonant chords.
Yeah.
And obviously the teacher, Couperin, wanted to demonstrate those possibilities.
Of Couperin's works, which are the most harmonically daring?
Of Couperin's works?
Yeah.
Many. So if you want to play just one piece where you find really amazing chords, I would recommend you to do the B minor Passacaille. We could find the score, but this takes some seconds. And find very dissonant chords. But I think because you asked me about this famous quotation where he talks about this
Yeah.
most touching things he's interested in. You can produce them, of course, with special spicy chords, what he does very quite often. But he also can produce this with more simple things, more naive things. So
Yeah.
it's possible in both directions, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's add more stuff to this. So do you want to talk about the apotheosis, the Italian and French style?
Yeah, I think this could be a good idea. Maybe to understand this, the conception of those pieces better, we have to know something about this mythological idea of the Parnasse. So both pieces are a kind of implicit musical theater. They have an action. We have informations at the beginning of the pieces on those action, what is happening. And you have to have in your mind an inner picture or a scene. And so the stage design, if you want, is always the Parnasse, the mythological place where Apollo with the Muses is living, and where you have a river. There's Hippocrene, where you can drink from, and where the famous artists will be after they're dead. And the idea was to compose an apotheosis for Corelli and for Lully. The first one was published in the Concert Les Goûts Réunis. And this title, it's a collection of concerts first. And the idea was to mix French style and Italian style. And as an big finales of this collection, he added the Apotheos de Corelli, which is not written as a concert. It is a trio sonata. Of course, Corelli, trio sonata, it's clear. And in this piece happens that only Corelli comes to the Parnasse. And then when he published this collection in 1724, so 300 years ago, of course, the audience expected that also the French style could get an apotheosis in form of apotheosis of Lully. And he promised already in the preface of Les Goûts Réunis, this will be published soon. And indeed, 1 year later was published as a separate publication, L'Apothéose de Lully. And here happens something very funny. Lully comes to the Parnasse, and then he meets there Corelli. The Corelli is already there. This is strange because Corelli died after Lully. So maybe Lully had to wait longer, I don't know. So it's Corelli. The first reaction is that they are not really fond of each other. So they're, what is this? An Italian composer, a French composer. So they have difficulties to come in contact. And then Apollon, the god, convinces them, try out, do music with each other. Then they do that, different as trio or even as duo. And then they find together, and then there happens, what Couperin calls the perfection de la musique. The perfection of music.
Wow.
Or the title of the last big collection of L'Apothéose de Lully, La paix du Parnasse, the peace of the Parnasse.
Look, it says here, to do honor to the greatest man in music whom the preceding century has produced. I mean, that's high praise for Lully. I mean, obviously.
It's high praised, but maybe it was also because of kind of
politics. Okay, right. I get it.
But he really is. And Lully's music is composed in a fantastic manner. So
yeah. Do you want to speak about the Trio Sonata in France? We skipped over that. And so, did he do much to introduce Corelli into France?
I think we could look at some examples, maybe. So here we can see maybe the influence by Corelli. As you said before, Couperin always praised Corelli as one of the biggest composers of all times, and he says, I will love him until my death.
He said that.
He said that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was in the 1690s where he tried to imitate the Corelli style. This is interesting for us today because we also are doing, when we are teaching music theory, we also are copying ancient styles, do we? This was
Absolutely.
a similar situation for him. And so he even said that he tells the story in Le Nation that he published his first trio sonatas with a fake name. So he called himself with an Italian name. He
pseudonym.
Said, hide himself. Maybe it's a myth or maybe not. We don't know. Anyway, he tried to imitate the Corelli style. And with those two examples, I try to show what he did with a similar beginning. Yeah. So you have in Corelli this 1-7-1, and then you have a scale, and you find something similar in the Couperin example. Or if you go to the next page,
right? Okay.
Yeah, we find again 1-7-1, and then the Phrygian cadence, and then the same thing happening in the relative major. A piece like this Preludio of Opus 2 could have been the model for it. Or the next. Yeah, this is a Battaglia composition, La Steinkerk. It's about a battle of Steinkerk. And also in Corelli, we find such Battaglia style compositions. Rarely, but we find them. Or next page. Yeah, this is the Battle of Steinkerk.
All right.
Yeah, and here, these are the famous Corelli voking basses. Everyone knows. Da, da, dum, ba, da, 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 with longer values in the top voices. Yeah. Just two examples from Opus 1, where it's the first time where he uses those kind of basses. And if you go on, we find another one in Opus 2. The same kind of bass, and here you find this very typical da-dee-dim-bum figure in the bass, the first beat. And this da-dee-dim-bum, obviously, for Couperin was a kind of, I call it topos, so a symbol representing Corellian style. And you find this da-da-dim-bum bass figure in those three pieces, in the La Convalescente, which becomes L'Impériale later, or you find it in the Apotheose de Corelli, just in the beginning, or later in this situation where we have the meeting of Lully and Corelli, yeah, which is written more in the Corellian style, and you again find da-da-dim-bum in the bass.
Fantastic. There's more. I mean, this is a bit of the art of that period, right?
Yeah, this is now about Italian style, which we can also find in the harpsichord pieces. So many of the harpsichord pieces, or most of them, they have a title, which is this description of somebody or something, or of a group, or what else. And one is in the B minor Ordre. It's the title La Raphael, which could be the painter, the famous artist Raffaele Santi. And if you look in the piece, the next page, so already the first impression is this is a very French piece, yeah.
Yeah, he actually writes out exactly what he wants, right, in terms of the ornament.
Yes, with many details.
Yeah.
Also famous for these very short values you can see already in the first bar.
Yeah. And this is from the Apotheosis of Corelli.
This is from the Apotheosis. The Apotheosis is a part of this publication, but it's not the Apotheosis himself. It's the ninth concert, where you have an Italian title, yeah, intitulé Ritratto dell'amore. So you see here this relation to Italy, And the next example, which is beneath from the it's the same page of the 10th concert, the 10e concert, we find the famous Neapolitan chord. So you have these, you see an A minor, and the yellow chord, you'll find there's a B flat major 6th chord placed on the 4th degree. It's held for a long time, so everyone can hear it very well as a kind of symbol for Italian style. You will find
that they called it in that time. Did they call it
no,
the Neapolitan?
They didn't use the word Neapolitan chord, but we have some evidence that it was already for them an Italian style element.
Okay.
So one example is the next page. This is the other Règles de composition by Marc-Antoine Charpentier. You can find it in this chapter where he talks about the fausse relation, the false relation. And you see all this, the graphics, the false relation. And so basically he says that in French music, you can do this false relations, so quite typical, and that the Italians are avoiding it, doing in the last example, maybe I can play this.
Yeah.
I played the second example. This is the French version. Yeah, there you have the fourth relation, E natural against B flat, which is typical for French style. And then they said the Italians, they do the E flat, and then they have no fourth relation. Then we can hear. And of course, today we would call that the Neapolitan chord. Yeah? That's E flat melodically and also harmonically. And his description is very nice. When you scroll down a little bit, it's in French. In French, he writes Les Italiens mettant en bémol au ton favori. The ton favori is the second degree. Évite la fausse relation. They avoid the false relation pour exprimer les douleurs ou la faiblesse des dernières paroles du moribond. So to express the pain and the faiblesse, what is the weakness, and the last words of a dying person.
Yeah.
Very
evocative. Yeah.
The effect of the Neapolitan chord, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, very good. Okay, I got to ask you something, Professor Menke. So Couperin, like the mastery of counterpoint, is he a counterpoint master?
What is a counterpoint master for you?
Well, like Bach, that sort of thing.
So if you say counterpoint master, a counterpoint master is somebody who composes a lot of the fugue, yeah, right?
Exactly.
So if we talk about fugues, he has, we can find fugues in the harpsichord music hardly. No? And the reason is a fugue is a thing which is not appropriate for the gallant world. Because if the gallant world wants to have elegant music and not music which smells like work. A fugue always smells like work. Yeah. It's a work of a craftsman who does a fugue. But in the church music, we have a place where you can find many fugues, and also in the Trio Sonatas. And I think coming from the fugue, we can say, here's a master of counterpoint. Quite early, if you study the counterpoint of the early organ masses he has composed, they are very artful. If you compare them with the composition of his contemporaries, which were much more older, well, it's the same level or even higher.
So, and with regard to his stature and his reputation as a player, was he a famous improviser? Was he a famous virtuoso of his time?
Yes, he was, of course. We have some, yeah, we know something about his performance as an organ player. We have some informations, and of course, at the court, he was famous as an harpsichord player. Therefore, he had the job as an harpsichord teacher. Surely.
Do we give a little bit more of the impression of how good he was? Because we know, like, for instance, Scarlatti had a duel with Handel and was perhaps judged to be better on the harpsichord. Little anecdotes like that. Do we know, like, people responding? Any critical reactions, contemporary responses, or
No,
critical notices of his playing?
We don't have such a story. As a player, I think we can more take it not directly, but from his l'art de toucher, or just try to play his pieces. Then you will notice the way he moved his fingers.
Speak of those pieces. So the pieces of for people who are not familiar with his music. So, like, are they like the well-tempered clavier of French music? Like, how would you assess them for people who have no idea about them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is about the reception also.
Yeah.
And if we say today the wohltemperiertes Klavier by Bach is a kind of school of composition in his time, of course this is not true because it was never printed. And so who used the wohltemperiertes Klavier? Maybe some pupils. And Couperin's works were at least printed. Of course, the prints were not so many, some 100 or more.
Okay.
But nevertheless, the pieces circulated by manuscript or other copies. And the question was about this role of being for other composers. Similar to Bach, we can observe this in the decades or centuries after. There is this famous quotation by Reichhardt, who said, I have to say that in German because it's originally in German.
Okay.
It was der Bach der Franzosen. Yeah. So he was the Bach of the French people.
French Bach. Yeah.
The French Bach. Today we think, this is Johann Sebastian. No, he was speaking about Carl Philipp.
Oh, okay.
Carl Philipp had this enormous effect on younger composers. Just only think about Mozart, who wrote many times that how important Carl Philipp was for him. And it's interesting that the people, even after his death, I think Reichhardt is from the is it from the 50s or 60s? I have to look. Even then he wrote this thing that is the Bach of the French Bach. And also later, when the harpsichord disappeared, Couperin was still famous. Let's have a look in one of the presentations. So here we find Reichhardt, it's 1782, where we have, you see it in yellow, der Bach der Franzosen. Der Carl Philipp Bach. Also the title, in seiner wahren Art, das Klavier zu spielen. And the model for that, of course, was l'art de toucher.
Okay. Yeah. So he had enormous influence then.
Yes, and if you go one page back, this is one piece he quotes, the Réveil du matin de Couperin. And again, back, please. Here we have Muzio Clementi. And now we are in 1801. This is really a time where the harpsichord has disappeared. Yeah. But nevertheless, we have this effect, this influence. If you just compare the titles, Introduction à l'art de toucher le pianoforte par Clementi, l'art de toucher le...
It's a straight rip-off.
This is, of course, taken earlier model.
A homage, yes.
Homage, yeah. And he also prints some pieces by Couperin.
Yeah. So his
But
stature was very high then,
it's very
even
high.
in very high. Can you
It-
name some composers who played Couperin and admired him and studied him?
So we have many of them. Just if you want to have a complete overview, you can read here the last chapter. Where
Yeah.
they
Of
influence
course, yeah.
all the people who have written or is dedicated pieces to him during his lifetime and later. So for me, interesting is always this this longer influence. Much after his death. And we can observe that in the 19th century, of course, the people had some difficulties with the style of the many ornaments.
Yeah.
So, for example, Weizmann he wrote a book about history of the pianoforte, and exactly here a nice picture by Weizmann. And he, of course, he mentions François Couperin, and he says he's one of the most interesting composer. And he says most of his contemporary composers are for him oberflächlich und geschmacklos. So they have no taste. They are only interested in the surface because they are only interested in ornaments. But then in his music, he says you can find behind this surface something very special, interesting.
I'm gonna ask a really dumb question, but does Couperin want you to play every single ornament, or does he say,
yes.
Can you also be like, if you don't want to play ornaments, you don't have to?
No, he was very strict. So he
Very
wrote,
strict. Okay.
So you have to play every ornament, otherwise I will kill you.
He was okay. So I get it. But is it possible, like, you can just not play the ornaments?
It's an
Would
interesting.
you lose a lot? Would you lose a lot?
So for me, it would be a fantastic experiment to observe Couperin when he saw a modern pianoforte. What would he do? I guess he would write his music with less ornaments. It could be.
Yeah, I think so. Right? I mean, it's right. I mean, because he was.
You can do. There's a very nice piece, Les Amusements. It's a piece in G minor and G major. You very often mixes major and minor. And if you play that piece without the ornaments on a modern piano, it has a little bit a kind of Schubert effect. But what I'm saying now is an experiment.
Well, like the famous mysterious barricades, right? I mean, that doesn't have many ornaments in it, just a couple here and there, right?
It's an example of this famous style where you have the chords and you combine the chords and they are overlapping, and broken and so on. But this piece, I think, it works only on a harpsichord. Of course, you can play it on the pianoforte. It works. You will not have this effect, and you have to listen to the piece in a room, with appropriate acoustics, and then you will have this effect of this fantastic sound. The whole room is full of the sound if you play the Barricade Mystérieuse.
Do you lose much if you play Couperin on equal temperament instruments?
Well, if you ask me, a harpsichord will never sound well with a totally equal temperament. This is a main problem, not only related to Couperin's music. So you always have to do some modifications. If you play harpsichord, if you play another instrument, it's different, of course.
Okay, well, Professor Menke, it's been a fantastic hour. What have we missed? Have we missed anything important that we should mention?
Look, there are so many aspects.
The French thoroughbass teaching methods. I think we talked about Nevers and Dondrieu. We talked a little bit about Tomlin. Yes.
We could talk about Edith Harry Schneider.
Okay.
If you want.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
You can consider if you want to add it or not.
We can absolutely do it.
First picture, and then we can go in the right order of the Freiburg presentation.
Let's do it. Okay, right here. I got it.
Yeah. So here we can see two pictures of Edith Harry Schneider. And she wrote the first German biography on François Couperin with the nice title Zärtliche Welt, which is, for me, it's really a touching title if you consider the world in the year 1939. Of course, it was not a tender world.
No.
He has chosen this title, maybe to
Zartlich? What does that translate to? What is Zartlich?
Zärtlich is tender.
Tender. Okay, so tender world.
Yes.
Okay.
It's an opposite to the reality of she was living in. So this is the since my book appeared, this was the only German biography on Couperin, and it's interesting that it was written by a female author, because she was a harpsichord player. Female harpsichord players were very important for the rediscovery of harpsichord around 1900. We can see on the next page the teacher of Edith Harry Schneider, the famous Wanda Landowska.
Very famous, yeah.
Very, very famous, yeah. She teaches, you can see, on the Schola Cantorum in Paris. She was also a teacher of Rolf Kirkpatrick, who wrote this wonderful
very important musicologist.
Yeah, we also see Ruggiero Gerlin and Hugues Dreyfus, who was again the teacher of Christophe Rousset. So then we have the generations until today. And really, the female harpsichord players were really important. It was not only the 20th century, also in the time of Couperin, we find many of them here in pictures. Or just remember Elisabeth Jacquet de la Guerre, the famous composer, in the same time, or the daughter, one of the daughters, now both daughters of Couperin became professional musicians. One became a nun, and the other one became also harpsichord player, official harpsichord player at the Royal Court in Versailles.
Imagine that. Your dad is one of the greatest musicians of all time. Wow. I mean, do they have any anecdotes about her, the children? I mean, do we have any biographical information and how he raised them?
Not so much.
Not much. Huh?
I also had two sons. This is very strange. One of them died early, and the other one escaped and was lost. They're very mysterious.
Yeah, it was many hundreds of years ago. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult to find.
Okay, so we have so much we could have gone to, but I just saw Richard Strauss. Why don't we just mention that? Richard Strauss is
this is interesting that we find in the first half of the 20th century a kind of a compositorial approach to Couperin. There were some composers interested in doing reworkings or orchestrations of works by Couperin. So Richard Strauss did too. The Divertimento and the Tanz Suite, both based on harpsichord pieces by Couperin. Or, of course, we have this famous Tombeau de Couperin by Ravel, which is dedicated to him. Not an orchestration of pieces, but he also takes some aspects of Couperin's music. For example, he takes the famous Forlan of the Fourth Concert Royal.
So, Professor Menke, final thoughts. Let's wrap it up. You have a fantastic book. Let's bring it up here. Just so what will people get when they buy your book? And just what were you trying to say with this book?
Of course, therefore, I need the book. 400 pages.
How long? Wait, that was a big project, right? I mean, our last interview, were you still in the middle of working on it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what is the main aspect? So I tried to give an introduction in the complete works, in all of the works by Couperin. I tried to explain as both the composition, including technical aspects, and also the cultural context of this, which was this change yeah, of morality of the entire world where he lived in. So coming from Louis XIV, going to the age of enlightenment.
Will I see some Adolf Bernhard Marx type analyses inside this book?
No, you will not find. It's not appropriate.
This is pure
But,
Ancien Regime.
but you will find one analysis with Rameau Basse Fondamentale.
Ah, okay.
Because
Then,
this was the
yeah.
time, and I think there was an influence in both directions.
Yeah.
There's just maybe you can consider if you want to bring it or not. There is one Allemande composed for two harpsichords.
Yeah.
And in this piece, it's very interesting in the composition technique. He combines two harpsichord pieces, and both have a different bass. The question is, what is the concept? There must have been a kind of meta bass, a foundation of both bases. And this foundation of both bases, we could call basse fondamentale in terms of
fundamental bass.
Yes, yes.
Well, fantastic. Well, congratulations on this great achievement, on this wonderful book. Clearly, you put so much effort and it's so quality. You're a great music theorist. I mean, you're really a really significant figure in historical pedagogy and historical music education. And I think this book really is a great amount of research, and I think people will get a lot out of this great figure in music history that I think a lot of people should really know about. I mean, if you like Bach, I mean, this Couperin is, I mean, he's right up there. He's right up there. He's the great. He's the great. So I mean, like, it's someone that I think that we really should know more about.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Professor Menke. It's been a real pleasure. And any taste of the fourth episode? What are we going to talk about? I mean, this has been a huge undertaking, right? What's your plans now? I mean, after you publish this book.
But you should not publish that. It's secret. It's top secret. My plans are always secret.
No. Okay, fine. We'll leave it. Maybe you'll announce it the next time. Okay.
To be honest, I'm not sure. I've 2 or 3 different plans. At the moment, I am a little bit observing the reactions on the Couperin book, and then I will decide which plan I will do.
Yeah, great.
So thank you for the invitation.
It was my pleasure. Always, you are welcome anytime you want to talk about anything.
Now is very dark. Unfortunately, I have forgotten to put on the light.
That's okay. That's okay. No problem. Well, have a great festive season coming up, Christmas season, and
you too.
And I will talk to you soon, Professor Menke. A real pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.